Hi, I'm Kuzniarek, and I'm the Director of Document and Media Systems for Wolfram Research. I am presenting what's new in CDF. I do this every year to fill everybody in on all the things that are happening with our CDF-related projects. I'm involved with a number of different groups that work on notebook-specific things and other kinds of projects related to authoring and content creation, particularly related to our documentation and other big projects like that. One of the projects I'm responsible for is essentially product managing CDF. Every year I give a review of how things are going with things related to CDF. So let me just jump right into that. Right now, we've got the new Wolfram Player for iOS, which John has written this awesome blog post about. And for us, it's a pretty big deal. Let's see if I can get to that. I hope it shows up. You know, my whole internet thing is kind of not happening, but let me just keep going. We've been working on this for quite a long time, and I'll go into a few more details about it. But it's a big deal. It gives us our third leg of our deployment concept, being able to put content into our notebook technology across all relevant platforms. So that's, you know, your computer on the desktop, on the web through the cloud, and in mobile devices, in this case through iOS. Cdf Player is always following our product releases. So when 11.2 came out, we had Cdf Player follow in 2 to 3 weeks. That's the kind of schedule we believe we can consistently maintain, and that's because a while back we did some retooling of the way we build Cdf Player and have it essentially be almost the same thing as Mathematica itself. It does mean it has a fairly large footprint, but it gives you the efficiency and confidence that everything that is in Mathematica is in CDF. There's some minor updates to what's in Mathematica, Wolfram Desktop, and other products like that that I'll show shortly. And a bigger meta point, as I have been warning for the last couple of years, the plugin is no longer installed or supported by our products, and that's because this year started off with all the web browsers abandoning plugins. While that was a really useful feature of what our player technology offered, and it was very handy for publishers and others. I mean, we have quite a few partnerships with publishers that relied on that plugin. But it's the end of its life cycle. That's the way it goes. So at this point, you have to be working with the cloud to put things on the web. Let's talk a little bit more about iOS. So we're talking about iPads and iPhones, which is why, as the case with John's blog post, you can have notebooks in your pocket. Rob and Jason gave talks yesterday, so if any of you were interested in those, I hope you caught those. But if not, we are videotaping everything that is presented at the conference, or video recording, I should say. And you'll find that stuff online soon after the event. Some quick points about how this works. The player, it's a free app, and the use of it is totally free for viewing notebooks and CDF files, but that's static viewing. If you want to interact with it, I should make clear, it's perhaps a little confusing, but to make it clear, it only operates at the level of free CDF, and that just means that it's a completely sandbox device. So those of you familiar with what goes on with the 2 levels of CDF that we have, the kind of enterprise CDF features that involve loading data from files or connecting to other systems, that's not going to happen on a mobile device that's fully secured like the Apple devices are. But you can still, interact with CDF documents that are completely self-contained with everything that gets evaluated and computed in that particular file. And you can do that with your cloud account login. It's not that you're necessarily connecting to the cloud to use the cloud. You're simply you're being verified or authenticated through our cloud to use the app for free. Or you could interact with files that have been saved from an enterprise product. So any of you developers here who are enterprise users and you want to put CDF files out to people who don't have any of our technology, you can just point them to the mobile app and they can interact with the CDF files you give them. Finally, we've got the in-app purchase. It's a one-time purchase. All it does is flip a switch and says your player is now an interactive player. John, do you recall, is that $10, $15? Do you remember what we priced? $10. So, but one of the really cool features, and the benefit of having the cloud login, is that if you've got files on your cloud account, the player can browse those files and then run those locally on the player, pulling them off of the cloud. So that's a nice detail. Just a reminder about the Cdf Player itself, the startup screen, and pardon me, I'm going to try another connection and see if I get lucky on VPN. Startup screen had been redesigned since version 11 first came out, which includes a cleaner presentation of this information, or icon I should put it, of activating Cdf Player as Player Pro. So Player Pro goes back a number of years. If enterprise isn't really going to be a workable solution for you, an alternative is for your users to purchase an upgrade to Cdf Player, and they can get the similar features as enterprise through it directly. We also had this show at startup checkbox. It's kind of nice when you're deploying CDF files as applications. You don't want people to see this startup screen necessarily, and they won't if they're starting files directly by double-clicking or drag and drop. But if they are starting in the player, they can also choose to make it go away now. All right, so then in Mathematica, Wolfram Desktop, Wolfram 1, we no longer have a CDF export item in the file menu. We now rely simply on save as to do the right thing when you choose CDF, and we define the right thing to be save your CDF at the license level that your product is. So if you've got an enterprise version of Mathematica, save as CDF is going to give you an enterprise CDF. If you don't, you'll get free CDF. It seems pretty straightforward. If you're on enterprise and you really still want to put out a free CDF to somebody, you can use the deploy CDF command function. Now, exporting CDF does still exist. It's just it's part of a workflow that is related to the preview step. So we've left the preview menu item, and the whole point of that is you're working on a file, you're in Mathematica, you want to see what your user of that file is going to see when they're with the player. And so you go to preview, it shows you the toolbar banner that the CDF Player puts up, and includes this additional yellow banner that you see here, which just indicates what license level you're at, and has the export button to just save out your file from there. Okay, so no more plugin. This is the part where I really wanted to show you guys stuff on our network, and I just kind of can't. So I think I'm going to wave my hands a lot and have you follow up looking at this file in the archive that we provide after the conference. These links will be, I'll be updating this file to have these point to public served files. These are all emerging features, but what I was going to get at is, and let's see, yeah, I just don't have any servers here, which is a little bit annoying. Yeah, I don't know. I came from the room, the setup room, and I was on VPN. Everything was good. I walk in here and everything's no good. Yeah, okay. This one. And let's see what happens here. I mean, what the heck? This was all just good.
You don't have a static entry or anything?
A what?
DNS entry, like static entry.
I don't think so. I wouldn't have configured that. Let me restart Firefox and see if that helps me. It's not helping me. I don't know. But this, we were inspecting this. I don't think we edited any of this info here. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you think there's anything you want to look at there? Is it just because VPN keeps trying to run? Should I, let me...
What was asking? Trying to find a password earlier, it looked like.
I had put it in and I saved it. You know, it's weird. Let me see if I can quit it. Did it quit? I can't even tell. No. Oh, there it goes. All right, let's see if with it not running, I can at least do something. You can try it again. I know it's here, right here. That's what screwed it up for me initially. And so I should turn this off, right? And then see if it comes back up. There we go. It's better than nothing. All right, so just to see if I can show a little bit of something here. On our CDF website, one of the main issues we have to deal with, and we'll be doing this throughout our website, are instances of CDFs embedded into our web pages. And what I was trying to happily show, and I can't really, but I can probably show it as soon as I walk out this room. And any of you could look me up afterwards if you really want to see this in action. What you see here as a CDF, and you know, any of these, not any of them, but most of these examples, we have working, running through the cloud, so that when you get to a page like this, you see a static image momentarily, and then it refreshes itself into an interactive element, an interactive manipulate object on the screen. No plugins, no downloads, nothing like that required. It's all being served off of our cloud, off of our servers, on the web, for the web. So we're trying to make that happen here. The same thing for demonstrations. At Stephen's keynote, you will have seen the reskinning of our demonstration site. You can see here it's complaining about the Flash plugin that, all plugins are gone now, so it's not like it's just us. But any of these examples here, we're also running Flash movies as previews, and we've got replacements coming in that are based on GIF animations. This is all part of what I was hoping to show. We've determined that of all the 11,000 demonstrations we have so far that are submitted by people all around the world, about 85% of them are working in the cloud, at least rendering, at least coming up and appearing like they should do what they need to do, but more testing is required for a lot of them. Some are too slow for practical use. When we were first starting cloud development, it was a real problem that when you're trying to interact directly, you're moving a slider, a controller, whatever, there's always going to be some amount of lag. You're dealing with sending, signals across great distances, but we are pretty confident that experience can get really tightened up to the degree that it's still reasonable to run most of these things. But it requires optimization, and if you're putting your own manipulates or other kind of interactive objects online, you've got to do a little bit of your own testing. Just confirm, put things into your cloud account, deploy it from your cloud account, have a look and see how it plays. There are optimizations that may be required. and there's a bit of work ahead of us to make that happen. But it is an ongoing project right now for us to deliver all of these things directly through the cloud as much as possible. For those instances where it's not practical, it'll be like it is now, where there's a big download button and you just download it to your desktop and run from there. And we are improving the download experience as well. I mean, I think I haven't quite seen it yet for what we're doing with our demonstration site, but when you're working with our cloud and you're downloading notebooks from the cloud, they'll immediately open in Mathematica or other desktop products, so it's a pretty smooth experience. One of the other things we're doing that I'm pretty happy about is in the case of demonstrations, but this will be true for anything that we would call a CDF, you know, where we have the idea of resource objects or you know, repositories that are full of data and content and other kinds of things. You know, we're going to have a function repository. What does that mean? Anything that you might code can be delivered as a function, like an API almost, off of our web servers for anyone to execute within their copy of Mathematica or anybody using the Wolfram language. And just like with our data repository where you can pull data down, we can do that for anything. And in this case, we're again using the demonstration site as a great source for a bunch of content. And these are some examples. So I should be able to just evaluate if I got any kind of a web connection here. Yes, thank you. And what I did there was pull this manipulate right off of our servers. You know, I'm working with it within our product now, so it's as smooth and interactive as it should be. Well, that's a pretty good experience. If we haven't achieved this yet, but if nothing else, like I was saying with that download experience, if the cloud isn't giving you the kind of connectivity or speed that you want for an interactive on the web, we should at least be able to get this into your player as efficiently and cleanly as possible. So, you know, any of these work quickly and smoothly, but it's not just the interactive elements. In the case of the demonstrations project, you know, the demonstrations all come with abstracts and information about who posted them. So, you know, we can pull all of that information separately. And similarly, if, you know, our plans are to expand this kind of idea with a CDF repository in general, or a notebook repository. So, you know, anything you might put up and are prepared to put up publicly can then be delivered through a mechanism like this. Well, yeah, I mean, the demonstration site, right? You know, so if you go to the demonstration site, just like with the data repository, you know, you would be able to click and pull the thing right out of there, like paste, you know, copy and paste this command. Would we create a dedicated browser just for the demonstrations repository? Probably not, but for a CDF repository, we would, you know. Just like, you know, for the data repository and what you'll see for the function repository. Here's an example. Oh, go ahead.
We're looking into there, I don't want to make any promises yet, but we're looking into having a more robust auto-completion that will update based on what's actually on the sites. No promises, but we are looking into it.
So you're saying if there's a function somebody wrote and put on our function repository, auto-completion could find that?
Yes.
That would be interesting, yeah.
When I mean auto-completing the actual arguments to the resource data.
Oh, right. In other words, if you write it out correctly to begin with, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Here's an example of just taking what's in the repository and pulling it up as an entire notebook. So what I've just done through the command line here is similar to having to go to the website and push the button that says download the notebook. You know, the notebook comes down and then open the notebook. So it's convenient and efficient. I think it's quite nice. I think just to wrap up here quickly, we're talking about the cloud, and what really makes the cloud exciting is that you want to be able to share anything you do with anybody else, and you want to be able to do it easily. And it's something where we're going through a UX cycle right now, where we're updating that process to make it as few clicks and as little thinking as possible required to take whatever notebook you have and share it with somebody else, and from that point, that file is at least to the level of what CDF offers, interactive for anybody who's you provide that link to or you share it with. If you're publishing it, it's the same difference. Anybody in the world, can interact with that file, but not indefinitely. They'll get a certain number of interactions, and then they reach a threshold, and they either have to download it and continue with the free player, or save it to their own cloud account and continue with it there. We think that's a fair way for you to get your content out and have people interact with it and kind of experience what our technology offers, but without overburdening our expense of running these servers to host all this stuff. Particularly if you have produced something that goes viral, that's our computation dime that's running this thing constantly for people. So it's fair enough that it switches over to their requirement to take action. And that works for every individual file going. So it's like if you produce another different thing, then that process starts over. Okay, so our website is constantly being updated. There's more information about what I just described that's going to be coming soon on the website to spell all of those details out. And like I said, follow up with me later if you want to see a little bit more of the cloud embedding, which I unfortunately was not able to demonstrate. Thanks.